What up? What up? Just watching the Cubs. They're not doing too well right now, so I'm going to put that on mute. Not that I even care about what the Cubs are doing, but I do feel kind of sorry for you Cubby fanitos out there. But let's talk about a little mass media. Wipe screen clear. What? Get out of here. Hide tools. Okay. Let's talk about mass media and public opinion and the role that the media plays in politics. And we know it is pretty significant. That is what or where most individuals get their information from. And it's essential that we figure out whether or not the media outlet that we use, whether it's a newspaper, a television channel, or a website, is being biased or not. That's essential. And the more unbiased the news source can be, the more reliable it is. So, does the media influence public opinion? I think, although there are studies that say it may not, I think the vast majority, I'm going to even take that off. With the way the media has changed over even the short period of time I've been teaching, I think there's a lot of people who would agree, and especially my view, and not everyone would agree with me, that there are a lot of individuals in this country who just see whatever they see on television about a candidate and take it as gospel or as the word that it is absolutely correct. Television actually does personalize a candidate in elections. That's, again, the avenue in which most individuals become acquainted with the candidates, whether it be watching a debate, whether it be watching a news conference, whether it be just watching the news where they have short little sound bites and short little campaign snippets every night when the candidates are running for office. The media also helps set the national agenda. If we were to go to Fox News right now, I would almost guarantee probably right at the top is going to be Hillary Clinton. She is to testify in front of Congress tomorrow in congressional committee in regards to Benghazi. So that I guarantee is going to be in the news tomorrow. They set the agenda. This is what we're going to talk about as a country. It doesn't mean that politicians have to follow whatever the media tends to follow, because they often tend to follow things that are negative. But the media does kind of set the agenda. And that is a big, big power that they have. And again, it doesn't mean Congress or the president has to, follow through and address what the media is talking about. But if people are seeing that, that's usually what the constituents are going to be talking about. There is a rise, and when we say adversarial, we mean journalism that is going to be looking for the bad instead of the good. Journalism that's going to have a clear slant, whether it be liberal or conservative. MSNBC is very liberal media outlet. And if you watch them every day, you're going to have certainly a more negative view of Republicans. Fox News, which is, of course, fair and balanced, is accused of being conservative Republican. And you're going to have a very, I would say, negative view of Hillary Clinton and the Democrats if you watch that news outlet every day. Some news outlets are a little less biased. I would say ABC, NBC, PBS. Those news outlets tend to be more in the middle or moderate. Again, media is a linkage institution, meaning it links citizens to the political process. They become knowledgeable. They know what's going on in the political process. The Republicans right now, I just read an article, Republicans right now are looking to pick a Speaker of the House. So they do kind of inform you. And that is probably a positive thing that the media does. There is a profit motive for the media in which they tend to kind of cover the small things that might not be the huge public policy issues of the day. They oh my goodness, there's some maniac Cubs fan in the background of the game just going berserk. I thought it looked kind of bizarre earlier, and now he's leaving. The fans are like laughing, like, who's this lunatic? But there's a profit motive, and they tend to put on the news what sells, and that tends to be negative stuff. It tends to be scandals. It tends to be things that aren't necessarily pretty. There are some that would argue that the media doesn't have a tremendous amount of political influence, that the mass public may not even care about watching political issues on the news. I would say that might be true too. There is selective attention, meaning if I'm Republican, I tend to, gravitate towards Fox News. So I may not be seeing the other side of the story. Uh, and again, this idea that the media might not form our political beliefs, that we have other avenues, family, school, education, etc., that really have a bigger role in determining our political views. And the media may help inform us, but it's not going to have a significant effect on us in regards to our political beliefs. Newspapers, there is a perception that they tend to be a little more biased. They do tend in local elections to support Republicans. It depends on the newspaper. Chicago Tribune tends to be a little more conservative. The Sun Times tends to be a little more liberal. So it all depends. And both sides, both liberals and conservatives, tend to complain. There has become an increasing lack of competition both in the media, print, newspapers, and on TV, meaning there are certain companies, Gannett, Knight Ridder, who buy up all of these newspapers, and they tend to have the newspapers or the TV channels that they tend to have the same story. So with less competition, you get less points of view, which leads to maybe a news outlets that tend to be more similar than different. And we'll get into the impact of the internet in a second. Again, the largest amount of presidential campaign coverage is who's ahead, day to day, horse race mentality, who's winning, instead of what are their unique policy stances on particular issues. Television, most people get their news now from TV and the internet as opposed to newspapers. Most of you probably don't read newspapers on a daily basis. There is a concern that the president has a tremendous amount of influence on TV because if he holds a press conference, the television or the TV channels are going to be there. Whereas if other interest groups or other members of Congress hold a press conference, you're not going to have every news outlet there. So there is a concern that the White House or the executive branch has too much influence over the media. There's a concern about the revolving door in journalism. Karl Rove, who we saw today in some of our classes, was the advisor to George W. Bush. And when Bush left office, he's constantly being interviewed, especially on Fox News. And obviously, he's going to support Republican principles. President or ex-Vice President Dick Cheney, same thing. So you have these individuals who were in campaigns all of a sudden become the commentators on campaigns, and surely they're going to have a slant whether they supported Republicans or Democrats or worked for Republicans or Democrats. And again, we talked about the lack of competition, although I think with the internet and social media, it's kind of balanced out a little bit. Revolving door, let me go back to interest groups. Again, the idea that also is a term you'll see with interest groups, where individuals who are in government, when they leave government, become lobbyists. That's the revolving door. So they become lobbyists. Lobbying companies hire them because they're very knowledgeable and have connections. So you see this term revolving door not only in the media, where members of political campaigns or people who worked for the government go into the media, and then you have the same example of they go from Congress to an interest group. And there's some criticism about that revolving door in both journalism and interest groups. Finally, the impact of internet and social media. I think Donald Trump is a prime example of how you can have influence. The Republican Party was not going to champion Donald Trump as a candidate, but he's been able to use his website, blogs, and certainly Twitter to get his name out there. And with all of these avenues that you have now with the internet, Facebook, blogs, it allows individuals who may not be a party insider, who may not get a lot of press in the media and the news, with all of the time spent online these days. All you have to do is like someone on Facebook and you're going to get constant updates. I won't tell you which candidates that I have liked on Facebook, but you may have a pretty good idea which ones. And so I get constant updates in my feed in regards to their opinions on issues, etc. So I think the internet and social media has made it easier for candidates to not be the favorite, but to have success in politics. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.